Today's prayer in my favorite prayer book is a traditional Celtic prayer, and it says, "As the hand is made for holding and the eye for seeing, you have created me for joy, O God. Share with me in finding that joy everywhere, in the violet's beauty, in the lark's melody, in the child's face, in the mother's love, in the purity of Jesus. Amen." Preacher friend of mine, David, in Birmingham, this past Sunday, started his new series on the book of Philippians, which is often considered Paul's joy epistle. He talks about joy a lot in that book. And David points out, I hadn't seen this before, this is cool, that happiness, the word happiness, happy, comes from the Old English word for luck. Happiness has to do with luck. You get a stroke of good luck, a moment of luck, a good roll, a good hand, a good opportunity. And it's fleeting and it's chance. And that's what happiness is. It's fleeting, it's lucky, it's short-lived, it's a moment. But joy is different. Joy is a reality. It's a decision. Joy is a decision, a choice offered to believers by Jesus. To live in joy is to choose a new reality defined by what Jesus has done rather than what's happening to you at the moment, because that's happiness. You get your $1,200 in the mail. You're happy. You don't get it and you check online and it says pending or not qualified or something else. Not happy. It's all about what's happening in the moment. You feel good. You're happy. You get a cough. You're not happy. Because what could this mean? But joy is to choose to live not moment to moment, but in the big story about what God is doing in the world. Now, in the book of Philippians, Paul talks constantly about joy. But the thing is, Paul is writing this book chained to a wall. Paul writes Philippians in a Roman jail cell waiting his certain execution. There's moments in the book where Paul becomes scattered and frightened in his writing. One of the most beautiful lines in English from that text goes something like, "For me, to live is Christ, and to die is gain." In the Greek that Paul writes it is nonsensical. We had to recreate what we think he's saying because the sentence there makes no sense. It contains my favorite Greek phrase. Paul says to die would be more, rather better. Chained to a wall, awaiting execution, uncertain if what the future will be. Will he ever see his friends? Will he live? Will he die? Paul says, "I have joy in all things." Because Paul's story is not defined by his current moment of being locked inside, socially isolated, distant from those he loves, distant from those he cares about, with an uncertain future. For Paul, joy comes from knowing the story that he's a part of. Paul is not happy to be in prison. Paul is not happy to be facing execution. Paul is not happy to be alone. But he has found joy in all circumstances because the circumstances aren't what matters. What's happening isn't the point for Paul. The reality of what Jesus is doing, has done, will do, is the point to Paul. May you find joy in this season. May this time of distancing and social isolation and political confusion and sickness and concern, may this not be a story about you. May this not be a story about me. May we, as a community and as individuals, have the strength, the courage, the humility to step back and see that all of this has always been a story about Jesus. And by participating in that story, we find joy. Grace and peace, dear friends.